Hi, this is Ivan Julian, and I'm listening to the Nothing Shocking podcast and enjoying every second of it.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking podcast, a non-genre based, all ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
We're putting the band back together.
The numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'm your co-host, Jeff Untied, and with me in Dogbowl Studio is
Coach Nez.
You can find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Libsyn or any podcatchers. Like our Facebook page or follow us on X at No Shock Pod.
You can also find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Rock Rage Radio every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Central Time. Our sponsor is Ragged Records, located in downtown Rock Island, Illinois, and downtown Davenport, Iowa. We'd like to thank the Hong Kong Sleepover for allowing us to use their music for our intro and bumper ending. And tonight's guest is
Ivan Julian, another punk and rock and roll legend.
Yeah, formerly of Richard Hell and the Voidoids, promoting his latest single, Her Lips.
Yeah, and we also talked about his last album, Swing Your Lanterns.
Yeah. Hey, let's get to that interview.
All right, good night.
Good night. Ivan, welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'd like to introduce you, my co-host, Jeff Untied.
Ivan, thanks for joining us tonight.
And thank you so much for having you, and good to meet you, Jeff.
Well, we are so super excited to have you on tonight. We have a lot to talk about, so let's get right into it. This past summer, you released the single, Her Lips. Talk about a decision about releasing a single opposed to releasing a EP or an LP, especially since you're synonymous with as an LP artist. So get right into it.
Yeah, it was my label's decision, actually, given the climate. Pravda Records lately. I mean, he thought, okay, I mean, let's just release a series of singles. I mean, and then next year we'll release an album, and that was his decision. I thought, as long as I can get something released, I'm fine with it. You know, I mean, it works for me.
Oh, very good. You also released a music video along with this single. And I know, we're in this really weird era now where, MTV is no longer the benchmark for music videos. And now people are going to YouTube and any other type of resource to release their music videos. But, in this climate in the music industry, do you feel like creating music video is still an important, platform for artists?
Well, yeah, because there's so many singles released on Spotify and YouTube, etc. Like, I mean, anything you can do to promote the single works. And I mean, and I was told, like, well, if you want to release a single, we have to have a video. Luckily, I had really talented people working with me that shot the video in 16mm film and made it, and they hired a bunch of great actors, and it looked amazing. And it kind of it helped. It did. I mean, you've always had to have a video, but I mean, now, you have to pretty much shoulder it yourself, I mean, yeah.
Exactly.
And some of the artists we talk to, like, they don't like the acting part at all. They're okay if you just, throw out a lyric video or something. But how does it work for you as far as, yourself behind the camera? Are you comfortable with it?
I've directed some, and I've been comfortable with that. whenever I relinquish the reins to someone else, I'm always a bit nervous because I don't know if they understand. It depends on who you have working making the video.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some people I just trust, and I go, okay, you get it, and you're doing great work, and you understand my vision for the song. And other people that they don't quite get it, but I'm comfortable making a video. I'm not always comfortable being in the video. You know,
Yes.
I've reached the point where like no one needs to see me anymore. It's like, okay, just put somebody else in it and let's go.
Well, let's talk about the creative mind behind the video for Her Lips. You know, I guess whose ideology was it to I guess use this theme?
It was a young director. Her name is Ava Burka.
Mm-hmm.
She's also was an intern but became an assistant engineer at the studio. And she's a filmmaker, and I told her I needed the video, and she kind of just took it upon herself to come up with this concept and made it happen. You know, and I told her, you know, I've been in all of my videos for all of my records and all that. I thought I don't want to be in this one. She said, and she made me be in it for a tiny bit. I said, okay, but I just come up with something, and that's how the video came to be. They shot it in my not my studio, but like the basement hallways where my studio are. And she found this amazing actress to play the part. I mean, because it's like the full title is "Vomit on Her Lips."
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and so we need someone that could like depict that in an elegant way.
Oh, very good.
You know, your most recent full-length 2023 Swing Your Lanterns. Talk a little bit about the making of that album. Do you have any stories from either in the studio or sharing tracks?
Well, I mean, I had a downtime right before that. Actually, there was COVID, and then like I got really sick, really sick. And I thought, okay, if I live through this, the first thing I'm going to do is make this album. No holds barred. I'm just going to like make, you know, get just spend all my time and energy making this record. And I, you know, gathered my songs, wrote some songs, had some people come in the studio. I generally make records with friends or whoever is appropriate for the song. I mean, there's a drummer friend of mine. His name is Florent Barbier. He's like a French drummer. And I always swore I'd never play with French drummers after being in France, but he's great. It's just true. But he's really great. He used to play in a band called the Minutemen, and he plays on most of the album. You know, he plays on most of the albums, and he's like, I'll use him again. He's like phenomenal. So I just got this together. It was first released in France, actually, and on a label called Laddick, but they didn't quite have it together. I mean, because they misspelled all these names and titles, and I thought, so I said, listen, I got to take this away from you. I got to find someone in the States, and that's how I found that, you know, that knows what they're doing. And I found Pravda Records with Ken Goodman, and he's been great. They're a great label. They really are.
Oh, fantastic. You know, Cut Me Loose is my favorite track on Swing Your Lanterns. That track gives me that 70s vibe every time I listen to it. You know, what can you tell us about the writing and recording of that track?
That track was inspired by, okay, it's funny because I've just been, like you said, I've just been in Maui, and I was with Charlie Sexton, and he's playing with Elvis right now. And there's a point when Richard Hell and the Voidoids were opening for Elvis Costello. But in that interim, during that period, we saw Ian Dury, and Ian Dury had the song "Hit Me with Your Rhythm Stick," and it just stuck with me. So I thought, this is fucking such a great groove. So this song, "Cut Me Loose," is loosely based on that.
Very
do
good.
you remember that song?
I do not.
Oh, you got to look it up, man. You got to look it up. Hit me, it'll blow your mind. It'll completely blow your mind. Hit me slowly, hit me quick, hit me with your rhythm stick. It's like,
but sonically though, that song kind of takes me back to a 70s vibe. And, you know, was that your goal when you were creating that track? Was it to kind of take us back?
No, my goal is always try to make a groove and give the song whatever it needs, you know. I mean, actually, the main riff from that song came from an 80s vibe when I was playing with Shriekback, you know, from England as well. It's like I'd come up with this riff for one of the songs. I thought, well, I'm going to use this riff someday. And yeah, it was just a groove, you know. It's like, I mean, I'm into I'm into all kinds of music, actually. I just got to, you know, listening to some wild things. I mean, Townes Van Zandt is one of my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably the best songwriter that has ever lived on the face of the earth. Okay, I'll say that. Anyway, yeah. So, I just like, you know, this song is like it develops itself, and I draw from lots of things. So, but I wasn't trying to take you to the 70s, you know. No.
Well, you did.
Okay.
Well, that's a good thing.
Wherever you go, exactly. Wherever you go, you go.
Well, and I know that COVID brought out the necessity of needing to share tracks and do Zoom songs and different things like that, which was really cool during the time. But if you had your preference, which one do you prefer? Do you like getting in the old studio style, or do you like this new modern technology of sharing tracks?
I'm more into like the in-person thing and working with musicians and having them come in and ruin my idea and turn it into something else.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, I know. And over the years when, you know, doing these podcasts, it's like, you know, I love the stories where, yeah, you hear a story of like, you know, in the studio and, you know, so-and-so was next door and we found this piano or something, you know. It's just that you miss those things in the modern world.
Yeah, because that's how, I mean, what inspired me about this was that, like, when I was making my first solo album, The Naked Flame, I was reading liner notes. And I realized, I mean, even with the Beatles, it's like a lot of, you know, people in the band aren't the core band. They're people that they brought in or friends of theirs that are really contributing something and making that song happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, since I guess, you know, you've concentrated on your studio work in recent years. You developed a recording studio, Super Giraffe Sound. You've worked with artists from all over the world. You've worked with local, national, international artists. Talk about the experience of owning and managing your own studio.
Well, I mean, I manage my studio under the premise of this. It's mainly here so I can write music. So therefore, as long as I think of it like that, I'm not focused on it surviving and having to, you know, because, you know, I mean, and luckily I've become, you know, I have electronic prowess. So therefore I've become my own tech. I can fix pretty much anything in the studio. That's what keeps studios alive, because, I mean, if you have like a 2-inch tape machine, 24-track tape machine, and a board and all this other stuff, it's going to constantly, you know, fizz out or break down. To hire someone to fix it can cost you $800 a day. You know, so, I mean, if I can do it myself, I can keep the studio level, and then thus, you know, I can write music. That's really what I want to do. I mean, do you guys know Vernon Reid at all?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And he comes, he's been working on something lately in my studio, and we're talking, it's like, the guitar is right across the room. It's right over there. But I can't seem to get to it because of all this fucking bullshit. There's all this that's in the way, you know. And it's like it's kind of like that. But I mean, but I also love producing people, you know. So I mean, I try to keep it afloat. We recently had to move in January because we're in this really great space in a part of Brooklyn called Williamsburg. It's like a dream. It's like this like full, you know, block length garage kind of place, and we had, you know, the huge ceilings and everything. And then one day an off-racker came in and weaseled his way to the owner and bought the place for $3 million. And he said, well, you guys got to go. I said, well, but look at all the stuff around me. I can't go in like a month. He goes, well, you got to go in a month because we're going to tear it down. So yeah, I mean, you got to, you know, it's a survival game, actually.
So where did you relocate to?
We're now in a place called Dumbo, which is down under the Manhattan Bridge overpass. So the Manhattan Bridge is right over this neighborhood, and the trains come over and they roar like crazy. And but we're in the basement, and a lot of studios are there. Actually, there's another famous studio called the Magic Shop, which was great. I recorded with Fred Schneider from the B-52s there. They've moved down there too. A lot of people have moved down there, and it's kind of like a Fritz Lang kind of vibe. It's like very mini metropolis. It's like it's weird. It's like this tiny, like medieval city within itself. I like it. I like it.
Are you as satisfied with this location as you were with the original location?
No, because this is going to sound horrible, but now there's all these other musicians around making noise.
Fair enough.
Before there was just me and like everybody was quiet, and that was cool. Like everybody be quiet so I can make noise, fine. But now there's like sometimes there's somebody recording next door, so you got to time it like that. But that other place was completely ideal.
Oh, very good.
Back to your solo albums. Did you have any other artists helping you on the albums, or did you mostly do some of the tracks yourself?
You mean Swing Your Lanterns?
Yeah.
Well, there's a guy little known. His name is Will Croxton. I mean, he wrote Swing Your Lanterns. Actually, he wrote the title song from the record. He used to be a client of mine. He's not my partner in the studio, but he's one of the greatest songwriters around. There are people, just local people, man. No one famous that I found that, just local people that I found that's come in, like, there were these two women from a band called, Psychopositive that I produced their record. I heard them sing together and I said, "You're singing on my record." It's
awesome.
that kind of thing.
Yeah. I like those. Very cool.
Well, in 2009, you released your first solo album, The Naked Flame. Take us back to your time and working on that first album. What challenges did you have writing and recording that album?
The songs were already written, most of them. There was a band called Capsula. They're from Bilbao, Spain.
Mm-hmm.
They came into my studio, and they said, I produced them. They said, "Will you produce our album?" I said, "Yeah, sure." And then they said, "Well, you must have some songs around, blah, blah, blah." And I went like, "Well, I'm just in the studio right now. I don't want to do any of that anymore." They said, "Listen, send us your songs. We'll play them. We'll play the rhythm tracks and send it back to you. And if you like them, then we'll do an album." And that's exactly what happened. Spain is like this, like really wild, like, I don't know. No one really knows about Spain. Like they are complete, like, just disciples of rock and roll. Like they love it. They live it. They everything it, and they came back to me with these tracks. And I wasn't expecting much. And it was like, whoa, they got it. They got the essence of this. So then they did the basics there, sent them to me. Then I overdubbed guitars, vocals, keyboards, blah, blah, blah. And that's how that happened.
Oh, very good. Well, The Waves is my favorite track on that album. That song is a true banger. Can you give us a little bit more about the creativity behind that song?
That was a song. Once again, I produced someone else's. This guy's name is Ari. I don't know his last name. And he'd written this song, and he'd written it. It was incomplete. And when I heard it, I went, "This is a great song." So I chimed in. I wrote the other half of it, and he's credited. I'm credited on the song. And I thought, this is going on the album. It's too great a song not to be heard. That's usually my thing. It's things need to be heard, I mean, which is why on that album I cover like Lucinda Williams, like Broken Butterflies. I thought, what if a man sang the song really badly, which I can do, because Lucinda Williams is another one of my favorites,
Yes.
We're very good.
Talk a little bit about your promotion for the albums. I know the climate has changed, and you got to be, as an artist, you got to be less reliant on labels and stuff like that. So you have to do more self promotion. And I know you've used Bandcamp and some other mediums. But can you talk a little bit about how it works for you?
God, it's awful.
Yeah, I know.
No, I mean it's just not in my DNA. My DNA is like, let me play some music and it's everybody deal with it. I mean, my DNA is not like, oh, look at me. Oh, look at me today. But I mean, actually my son who plays music, taught me, hey Dad, you got to like do this and you got to be excited about it. Because if you're not excited about it, who else is? So he said, you got it. You forget Facebook. You got to go on Instagram. He like schooled me along the whole way. So now every chance I get, I'm on Instagram, promoting this or that, and I've become accustomed to it. I don't, I'm not, so dissuaded by it anymore. I mean, it's okay. I mean, I do it, I mean, if you don't help yourself, who's going to help you? So like, yeah, it's fine. Yeah. But I mean, there was a price to pay back when you had record companies and they had their own promo department because, they would sometimes get it wrong and you're paying for all this stuff. You don't know you're paying for it, but you are. I recently heard a story about Hendrix, believe it or not, Hendrix, when he got the first proof back for the Electric Ladyland cover, it said, Jimi Hendrix, Ladyland Electric. I mean,
yeah.
It's like, what? Didn't I tell you? It's like, anyway, but yeah, these kind of things happen, So might as well just do it yourself and make sure it's right, I guess.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about the New York rock and roll scene.
Yeah.
You're synonymous with it throughout the years.
Yeah.
But talk a little bit more about the scene today opposed to the scene back in the day, I guess the 70s and the 80s. Is there still a strong rock and roll scene in New York City?
Yes, there is. I mean, it's amongst like younger people, but yes, there is. People say the scene is dead. They're wrong. First of all, the scene has moved to Brooklyn because no one can afford to live in Manhattan, especially young musicians and all that. I mean, just forget it. And it's harder and harder in Brooklyn as well. And there are venues and clubs that they play and then, they frequent and then they go to and all that. But I mean, I had a kid ask me like, how did you guys do it? How did you make it happen? I said, well, my friend, rents were $125.
Yeah.
As opposed to $3,000. So, I mean, if you're busy trying to scramble up $3,000 a month for rent, regardless of how many people you have in the apartment, then to be able to rehearse and all that, it's more difficult. But people make it happen. They do. I mean, there's like, great bands, great young bands that are playing. I went and saw one, this last week. It's like, things are happening. I mean, people, let me say, in the older generation of press think, oh, it's no, there's nothing going on. There's tons going on. It really is. I mean, it's just, a different format,
Exactly. And, obviously throughout the years, we've seen legendary clubs in New York City close down, Max's Kansas City, CBGB, et cetera, et cetera. In Brooklyn, are there those up and coming clubs for bands to play with that will have maybe quote unquote legendary status over the years? Are there any of those pinnacle clubs any longer?
That's a good question. Legendary, that happens, once in a millennium or once in a decade, you know what I mean? In a decade or something like that. I mean, when CBGB's was happening, I compared it to, Swing Street and like 52nd Street with like, Charlie Parker and the bebop people when that was happening there. I mean, and CBGB's and Max's had the same kind of vibe to it where like people had come from all over the country and maybe the world to play in this place. They didn't know why to create this movement. And it just happened. There's no one place like that right now in Brooklyn. It just isn't. I mean, yeah.
Exactly. And, and here locally, we had a club here or a room that was legendary,
right.
and it closed, and it's sitting vacant as we speak. And that was a club that brought in all genre of rock and roll. And when you lose something like that, and we don't live in a metropolitan area like New York City, but it really was a hit below the belt line. But when you lose major mainstays as a CB's or Max's Kansas City like that, how hard is it on the scene to still thrive when you don't have those rooms to play in any longer?
Well, it creates a vacuum. I mean, because a lot of the bands, that like had played CB's and Max's, by the time that happened, including the Voidoids, we'd moved on. We were doing national tours, we're doing regional tours and all that. Rarely are we playing CBGB's. I mean, but there were a few after that whole period. But when that closes, it's like there's nothing. Because I talked to someone who their band had driven halfway across the country in like the late or mid 80s or something like that, just to play CBGB's, just to be there. And I understand that because as a kid, do you know Fugazi?
Yes,
Oh,
of
yeah.
course. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, here's another anecdote. I grew up with, basically, lived with the producer of Fugazi. His name is Ted Nicely. Like, him and I were kids together going to school, along with like HR from Bad Brains. We all went to the same high school.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, so where was I going with this? So we used to like take his mom's car, drive up to New York from DC, where we lived, and touch the Fillmore East,
Yeah.
and then
Yes.
and then drive back in time, hopefully to get to school, which never really happened, you know.
Oh, so
Yeah.
cool.
So that's that kind of thing. I mean, I get it. But to answer your question, when that kind of venue, what was the name of the room?
It was called Ribco. It was a short for Rock Island Brewing Company, but they never brewed any beer.
Okay.
But a lot of live music.
I mean, they brought in anywhere from the Black Flag to Crow Mags to, I mean, you just name it, Reverend Horton Heat to the Melvins. I mean, you name it. I mean, it was like it was a room of maybe 300 maybe.
Yeah. And in my younger days, I mean, I went to see tons of local bands. It was cool because you could one weekend see a local band, and then the next weekend they're sharing the same stage that somebody more famous played. So it was really cool. But we do have a couple of good places here locally. One of them, you played Raccoon Motel recently here. Unfortunately, as we talked before the show started, we both missed that due to commitments. But can you talk a little bit about your show that you just did at the Raccoon Motel?
Oh, it was fun. It was kind of it was fun. I mean, but what happened was the day before I was supposed to fly out to Chicago and Davenport, my band, or like my guitar player, other guitar player, and my bass player, his wife, contracted COVID.
Mm.
So I had no band. I was planning to do it with a full band, and I had no band. So I thought, okay. I mean, I've been doing acoustic shows lately, and that's something else. I mean, we'll talk about. It's really great because people go up close, and I still bang it out the way I always do, but it's just with the acoustic guitar. So anyway, so there was no band. So I just went there with myself and my backup singer, and we played it, and it was really fun and great. And at one point, I had this pedal that I was going to use for the Maui show, this Jimi Hendrix pedal, so to speak. And I just banged on it with the acoustic guitar, and it started howling. It was really great, and everyone seemed to like it. I liked it. I had fun. I really liked it, And I like doing that show. It was great.
Well, talk a little bit more about you as the acoustic artist live, opposed to playing, plugging in and having a band behind you. To talk about the differences. Is it just as fulfilling, or I guess maybe just talk about the whole experience?
It is just as fulfilling, if not more fulfilling, because I only have to think about me and the audience, and I give the same amount of energy. I mean, I don't bounce around as much because there's no drummer pushing me, but I mean, I've come to really like doing it. I mean, and the audience seemed to like it too. I mean, it's not like, oh God, I wish there were this, I wish there were that. No, man, it's like full on. I do like it. And I've been doing it. I mean, since I guess last, almost a year now. And because mainly, honestly, because it's so expensive to bring a band out on the road.
Yeah.
It really is. It's like whenever I bring a band on the road, I never plan to make money for myself. I just go, I'm doing this, I'm promoting the record, which is fine. And I'm not like, everybody gets paid because I insist on paying my band. It's just like, because I've been there, you play with me, you're going to get paid. So, I don't know. It's like, I enjoy the acoustic thing. I mean, then again, playing with a band is fun. It's great, and that too. But I mean, hope that answered your question.
Sure. Yeah. You talked a little bit about the band couldn't make it, but on your normal tour with your band, is it fairly consistent, the same players, or do you have a rotating list you can pick from, or how does it work for you?
I have a band on the East Coast, which is my my local band or whatever. A lot of the same people that played on the record. And then when I come to the Midwest, I use a band, this guy Nick Tremulous. I don't know if you know, he's like from Chicago. I use his band. We're good friends. He plays on my record too. I mean, and we've been good friends for a long time. So when I come out there, and that was the band I planned to use when I came to Iowa. But yeah, I used like that, his band, because I trust them. They're great. They get the feel and everything. Because, I mean, I did a show in Chicago, and the bass player, as I said, his wife contracted COVID, so he didn't want to come. But I got some bass player, and like, I had to explain that, like, it sounds simple, but it's not, especially for the bass player. The bass player has a lot of work to do in my music, because that's, you know, why I can leap around and make weird noises, so you can play the right notes.
Fair enough.
Awesome.
Well, let's change gears on you here. You recently performed at a benefit in support of the Maui wildfire victims. What can you tell us about that experience?
It was really a great experience. I'd never been to Hawaii before. And once again, it was arranged out of Chicago. My friend Nick, as I just mentioned, he's the one who put the whole thing together. He knows everybody. He knows Keith. He knows Mick. He knows blah, blah, blah. He knows Ivan Neville. He knows Charlie Sexton. I could go on and on and on. He knows Miles Davis, even though he's not around anymore. He just knows everybody. It's crazy. But so they asked him to like organize this thing, and he gathered people. And luckily enough, he asked me to play on it too. I mean, I thought, okay, sure. And everybody did 2 Hendrix songs. And it was really phenomenal. I mean, and then Billy Cox was there, you know, Hendrix's bass player from Band of Gypsies. Ernie Isley, who else related to Hendrix? I mean, Ivan Neville, a lot of people, you know, that. And so all the money, I mean, the benefit was for the Maui fire people, because when you go there, you see devastation. It's kind of like devastation in any place that has that kind of thing happen. It's like, it's kind of like a hurricane or a tornado, sort of, not a hurricane, but a tornado. Where like, I saw it, like, it would like drop down on a group of houses, burn them to the ground. Then the flames would leap up and miss some houses and then burn some others. It was pretty bad. I mean, and it was only last year. So I was like really happy to do that when he asked me to do it. And I was happy to play Hendrix songs as well, which I know, I mean, I some people, how can I say this? I mean, I've never learned Hendrix songs. I've learned from him. I've learned how to have fun with the guitar, but I've never sat down and learned them. This was like learning the guitar all over again. It really was, man. I'm telling you. I mean, I did Machine Gun and I did Spanish Castle Magic, which I thought would be a piece of cake, you know. I mean, but no, Spanish Castle Magic is like he's dragging his strings across the neck. He's like doing all this stuff while he's playing. It's like I saw him when I was 12. You know, and my friend's older brother took me to see Hendrix at the Baltimore Civic Center. And I got to admit, it changed my life in so many ways. But I never wanted to, you know, play like him or try to emulate him, because I thought, that's him, man. It's like, find your own way. But yeah, it was total fun. And everybody was totally cool. Like all these like lead guitar players there and no ego. It's pretty amazing, actually. Yeah, it was fun, and I was happy to do it.
Fantastic.
Yeah, well, I reading through your 4 decades of performing with some other bands and legendary bands like the Clash and the Foundations. I read about Matthew Sweet and spending most of the '90s touring with Matthew. I'm a big fan of Matthew's Sweets. Can you talk a little bit about that experience or your contributions to Matthew Sweet's music?
Okay, I came into Matthew Sweet because my friend, once again, Quine from the Voidoids, had played on Girlfriend.
Yeah.
And he wanted Quine to go out on the road. And Quine doesn't go out on the road. I mean, Matthew didn't know that, but like, it just wasn't going to happen. And when I've been on the road with him, and when it does happen, it's not fun. Okay. So Quine calls me, goes, I got the singer. I didn't really know who Matthew was. That's funny. I didn't know who Matthew was. I mean, it kind of like, I heard of him as like a singer-songwriter, blah, blah. And he goes, okay, I played on his record and he needs somebody to go out on the road with him. And I said, okay, let me hear it. And I heard it, and I go, it's good stuff. I heard, Girlfriend before it was released. I thought, it's good stuff. Yeah, that sounds like fun. And I love touring. That's the thing. Some people get wary of it. I really do love touring. I love meeting people. I love playing music to different, cultures. I just like it. So then I, started touring with Matthew, and then I was with him for like 6 years.
Yeah.
And what a sweetheart and a talented guy. That's all I got to say. I mean, just really a sweetheart and a talented guy. And he would just, in my best scenarios, when I rent myself out as a guitar player, with him and with Toback, people go, it's in this key. It's in E. Do whatever you want. And, then it all happens.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. Then other artists that I saw in your catalog that I'm intrigued by is Jeremy Toback. We were supposed to have him on the podcast earlier a couple months ago, but we have to reschedule.
Jeremy, I haven't. We kind of touched base a little bit while ago. I love Jeremy. I mean, how did that come about? There's a producer who wanted me on the record, and that's why I met Jeremy. And I heard Jeremy's songs and I liked them. We went up to Woodstock and recorded in this beautiful place. And once again, Jeremy just said, "Do what you want." And I said, "Okay, you sure?" Nice. But yeah, that record, Perfect Flux thing, was a really great record. Yeah, really great record. And he's a great songwriter. What's he doing now? I haven't heard.
Well, I don't know. We were supposed to have him on a couple weeks ago, but we had something came up and we had to cancel. I think I got sick, and so we hopefully we'll have him back on here soon.
We both had COVID.
Yeah.
So, track here for a second. Why does COVID seem to be really circulating around the Midwest? It's really weird. I mean,
I don't know. We just all went through it, so it's burning through here.
Well, I can tell you one thing. So by day, I'm a public school teacher, and it just when one kid brings it to school, everybody gets it. So and so then you just take all these kids that are going out to schools, whether it's public or private schools, and they're spreading it like wildfire, and it just goes everywhere.
Gotcha. I mean, I got it on. I got Omicron, like the second version of it, after I'd already gotten boosted on a subway train from a guy that was like all the way in the other way, end of the train. It was only me and him, and I knew it was him. The next morning I woke up and I went, shit. It wasn't fun.
All right, so I have one last question for you, and we'll leave you alone for the evening. I'm going to throw Jeff under the bus on this one, too, because you're probably not prepared, so that's okay. I do this every once in a while. So I always like to know what our guests are listening to, and then we like to give them back what we've been listening to. So what have you been listening to outside of your own music?
I just told you. Townes Van Zandt.
Well, there you go.
Townes. Let me think about this. Let me be honest with you. Let me look around. Let me look over here at like what's out in the CD world. Sticky Fingers, because that's my favorite album ever of all time.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
It just is. Whenever I produce an album, I always listen to that because to me that's a perfectly crafted album. It's just crafted great. Since I've been to Hawaii, I've been listening to Axis Bold as Love, the Hendrix album, because I realized there's so much jazz in there, man. That's that's why he had Buddy Miles for a while. Okay, that's all cool. Mitch Mitchell was his drummer because Mitch Mitchell was a jazz drummer. It's just like that. Yeah. Modern stuff. I mean, I've always listened to people that are dead, pretty much. I mean, even when I was in high school, I realized everybody I listened to is dead. What's up with me? I don't know.
Yeah, fair enough.
Of course, Lucinda, Good Souls, Better Angels. That's a good one. Oh, Lindsey Quincy Johnson. Do you know about him?
No, I do not.
He's like Mick Jones from the Clash turned me on to him because Mick. I mean, as you know, I play with him, blah blah blah. But when I was in England, he turned me on to all this reggae music that we never heard in America. All this really raw root stuff, And he turned me on to Lindsey Quincy Johnson. I'm like, whoa! I mean, I'm sitting here in his flat, listening to this stuff, going, we never get this. We never get the rawness of it. We get the pretty Bob Marley, blah, 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 which is all fine. But so that I've been listening to. There's Ashes to Ashes, David Bowie with us.
Oh, good one.
This stuff, I don't know, stuff I need to hear and stuff like that.
Oh, very good. Well, what about Jeff over here? Jeff, what have you been listening to?
One of the perks of this job is once in a while we'll get a sampler to listen to before the album comes out or something like that. So recently I got to go on travel for work, and I went down to New Orleans, and I got to listen to while I was walking around on my headphones The Night the Zombies Came, the new Pixies album, and that was a trip. I had to listen to the whole thing walking around. It was so cool.
I'm writing this down because I want to hear it too. Oh, speaking of new, I heard the new Jack White album.
Oh, cool!
It's fucking amazing. It's really amazing. Have you heard it?
I have not.
You gotta.
Definitely.
So,
well,
yeah.
I have been listening to Susie and the Banshees' Superstition. That album is fantastic. And people always ask me, what is your favorite song on that album? There is no favorite song on that album because it is awesome from start to finish.
That's always a good album.
Oh, I love that album. Completely love that album. Well, like I said, we're running out of our allotted time for the evening. So is there anything that we left off tonight that you would like to plug or promote?
I'll have a new single coming out. I mean, like I said, I'll tell you what it is soon, or you'll find out what it is soon. Oh, but I want to plug. There's a studio I went to in Iowa and Davenport. The guy's name is Pat that runs it.
Yeah.
Do you know it?
What's the name? What's the name of the studio?
I don't know. You guys know?
It might be Pat Stolley. Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm familiar with him and his music and stuff.
But anyway, it was like one of the most amazing studios I've seen in the world. This place that's in Davenport.
Oh wow!
Really amazing.
Did he have ties with Daytrotter?
Yeah, and then he used to do his own. He had his own music that he was doing, and then he helped out Tripmaster Monkey.
Okay.
And was the studio on Rock Island?
Yes.
Yeah, yes. It's Future Apple Tree Records. It's in the
Old Daytrotter.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's in the. I think it's Old Daytrotter, but it's with Ragged Records there.
Yeah, that's the old Daytrotter.
Yeah, it's called Future Apple Tree Studios.
Yeah, because the record store is upstairs, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's it.
Which would be that's the old Daytrotter recording studios.
He showed me his gear. I'm like, and he maintains it. I like grabbed my ankles and started sobbing. It was like so great.
That's awesome.
It's so great. And I've been to a lot of studios and worked in a lot of studios. It was like really amazing.
Oh, very good. Well, what else do you got for us, Ivan?
That's it. That's it. I think that's everything. I think we've covered a lot of things. Also, here's something else I wrote down. If you guys get a chance, you want to find out new things, check out Soca music. SOCA.
Okay. Soca music.
Okay, that is Southern Caribbean music.
Oh,
Once again, something I found out that's like really raw and like this rock and roll. It's like so great. It's like, they have these songs when you listen to them, you go, whoa, this is like bloody punk rock. It's rock and roll. It's so great, but it's like kind of reggae-ish. It's really cool.
Oh, very good. Well, this is how things are going to work out once Jeff, the editing wizard over here, gets my boogers and coughs all cleaned up. We'll get this sent to you get this sent to you right away, and please share it wherever you possibly can. We'd appreciate it.
Okay, I'll be back in your neighborhood very soon, probably by the end of the year or early next year. Okay?
Oh, cool. So hopefully we'll try to get out there and see you.
Definitely.
Yeah. Cool talking to you guys.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Ivan.
Thank you.
It was an honor to have you tonight.
Okay, it's fun talking to you guys. Okay.
All right, I'll be in touch in about 2 weeks with the episode. Sound good?
Cool, sounds great.
All right, man. Thank you so much.
Okay, get better, okay?
Yeah, take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
kiss goodbyes. Move to the sunshine. Fight the grip of nights. If they ever take from you, then you plug out both their eyes. They roll the dice. Take your chances.
Welcome to the night. You think you know Night Demon? Then the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast is for you. Step into the darkness as we peel back the curtain to give you an unprecedented, all-access look into the mind and the heart of the demon. We're talking band history, song analysis, studio anecdotes, stories from the road. It's everything a diehard Night Demon fan could want and more. This is the only place to learn the inside scoop, the deep dive trivia, the untold tales from the band members themselves and those closest to the Night Demon story. Need more? The sacred Night Demon Crypt will be pried open to reveal demo recordings that have never before seen the light of day, all with in-depth commentary by the band and the people who were there for the writing and recording process. This is a gold mine, a treasure trove of all things Night Demon. Head over to nightdemon.net or wherever you listen to podcasts.